Meeting of the City of Raleigh Appearance Commission. My name is Adam Walters, and I am the chair of the commission. The Raleigh Appearance Commission is a public body appointed by the City Council that exercises both advisory and quasi-judicial functions. The Appearance Commission's responsibilities relate to zoning and other land use matters, as well as the visual quality and aesthetic characteristics of the city. Today's agenda includes requests for design alternates from the city's Unified Development Ordinance. When hearing requests for design alternates, the Appearance Commission sits as a quasi-judicial body and conducts an evidentiary hearing on that request. That means it's like a court hearing. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how this commission must make its decisions. The commission's decisions are constrained by the standards in the city ordinance and the facts presented at the hearing. The commission hears and considers evidence presented at the hearing and applies the standards set forth in state law and the city's ordinance. The commission must base its decisions upon competent material and substantial evidence presented at the hearing. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and standards, not personal preference or opinion. This meeting is open to the public and everyone is welcome to watch. However, participation in the evidentiary hearings is limited. Parties have rights to participate fully. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, make legal arguments, and witnesses may testify as to facts to which they are competent to testify so long as those facts relate to the legal standards. In addition, lay or non-expert witness testimony is limited to facts, not opinions. For certain topics, the commission needs to hear opinion testimony from expert witnesses. These topics include projections about impacts on property values and projections about the impacts on traffic safety. We will now open the evidentiary hearing for item DA 15-2023 on today's agenda. DA 14 has been withdrawn. Casey, will you introduce this hearing? Before you start, let me swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. You can proceed.
Good afternoon. So the subject property is located at 6701 Town Center Drive at the northwest corner of Town Center Drive and Triangle Town Boulevard. The property is zoned commercial mixed use, 5 stories, parkway frontage, conditional use, and it's located in the Special Highway Overlay District. The property has frontage along Town Center Drive, Triangle Town Boulevard, the Interstate 540, and the applicant is proposing to develop a portion of the site with a hotel and surface parking. The applicant is requesting one design alternate to allow the proposed service area to be located in front of the building. A service area, as referenced in the UDO, is referring to the area where solid waste and recycling type containers are located. Service area screening requirements dictate that service areas be located to the side or rear of buildings and be screened from adjacent properties and right-of-way. They must also be screened by a solid wall and gate at least 6 feet tall. Here are the 4 findings that must be satisfied in order to grant a design alternate for the service area landscaping and screening requirements. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any, and then we can turn it over to the applicant to give their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Casey before the applicant presents? Okay. Hearing none, the applicant will now present evidence and legal arguments in support of the request. As a reminder, any evidence and argument must focus on the applicable standards. Can you state your name and relationship to the case for the record?
Certainly. Good evening. My name is Will Quick. I am an attorney with the Brooks Pierce Law Firm, Suite 1700, 150 Fayetteville Street here in Raleigh, and I am the attorney for the project.
Okay, great.
Also with me, just to introduce them now, I have Matt Hook, who is the Entitlements Director for Concord Hospitality, the owner of and developer for the project. And I believe walking in the door is Paul Duncan, who's the Vice President of Extended Stay Development for Concord Hospitality, and then Brian Soltz with Samba Tech, who's providing the surveying, engineering, and land use planning for the project.
Okay.
Happy to have them sworn in now in case.
We can do that as needed.
Yeah, gotcha. So as Ms. Evans noted, we are here with a single design. Sorry, my water is sliding all over the place. A single design alternate for a service area location change. I guess this is the second meeting in a row where that's the only thing on your agenda. And I will go ahead and note now that this presentation grew a little bit with Casey's grace today after I listened to the presentation from last month and heard you loud and clear, Chair Walters, about things you wanted to hear. So hopefully I can address those and answer some of those questions in advance. All right, so here's just another aerial image of the project with the site plan overlaid and grayed out a little bit. As the staff report noted, address is 6701 Town Center Drive, and the project is bordered on the north by I-540 and directly by an off-ramp from I-540. To the south, it is bordered by Triangle Town Boulevard. To the south, it's bordered by Town Center Drive. That's the one with the roundabout there coming through. And then on the east, Triangle Town Boulevard. And then on the west, as you can see in this photo, there was an apartment complex under development at the time this aerial was taken. That apartment complex, as you'll see in additional slides, is now complete and being occupied, but that's directly to the west. Proposed use is a 124-room studio res hotel by Marriott. That's a new concept by Marriott, kind of an extended stay concept, but a high-end extended stay or mid-end extended stay option. I'll point out just on this slide, because it's easy to see with the overlay, that while the proposed service area there with the blue arrow to it is to the rear east side of the property, that's actually the front yard for purposes of sort of city qualification, which is why we're asking for this service area location to be changed. The actual front entrance to the hotel will be facing Town Center Boulevard to the south. So you can see the drive coming up there, and then you'll turn in, and most folks probably will choose to park there in the front and go in the front door, at least when they're checking in. And I guess just sticking with that theme, because it may become relevant in later conversation, where the Alta Town Center apartments are shown on this image is actually the rear side of the property for purposes of qualification with the city. This is just an idea of what the property will look like from the elevations. The top elevation is the front of the property, again, even though that does not face the front for purposes of city qualification here. And then the bottom is the rear, again, even though that is a side yard for purposes of what we're here for today. And so if you're driving up from Town Center Drive, planning to enter the front entrance, you would sort of come up to that top image on the right side and then turn left. And then if you were to continue straight, you would run into where the service area is proposed to be located. Just moving into what the service area is proposed to look like, and I want to be clear on this point that we're not asking for any design alternates to the landscaping or screening requirements. This would be in particular to the screening on this slide, only to the location, but this is the proposed, these are snippings from the proposed drawing submitted with the application. You can see sort of from the one on the far left here, that the structure will have sort of your typical trash enclosure, steel barn doors that open for the truck to load the trash. The doors themselves are proposed at a height of 7 feet 6 inches, which meets the UDO requirement. The middle snipping there shows the brick enclosure having an 8-foot wall all around. Again, the minimum is met and exceeded in this instance. And then as you can see on the right, it wraps all the way around where the dumpsters would be located, and it has sort of your typical foot entrance there on the side. And then while these aren't colored, the idea is to have them painted similar to the facade colorings that we saw on the last slide. So this is the landscape plan for the property, and I'm not going to spend much time on this, but I do want to point out that there are a series of tree conservation areas. They're hatched here. You can see one, I guess I could use the tools here. So there's one here, one here, one here, and then sort of one going down this way. And so these tree conservation areas are in locations that we believe will provide additional, limit views from the roadways in particular, if you could see the trash enclosure from the road, which is arguable, as we'll get to in a minute. But that's where those are. And then I'll go to the next slide and zoom in just on the landscape around the service area with the key here on the right. You can see just going up this side, which if you're oriented, if you were looking at the property from Triangle Town Boulevard, you would be looking at the sort of outer edge of that red line I just drew. Those will provide some amount of sight blocking from that angle, again, if you could actually see it from Triangle Town Boulevard, which we'll address in a minute. And then directly around the service enclosure itself are a series of wax myrtles planted sort of directly around the outside of the service area, and then willow oaks on each of the corners there that will provide additional landscaping that would meet any UDO requirements. So essentially this would block or help limit any views from any angle other than directly on where the barn doors you see are open in this particular plan. This is the portion of the site plan showing the solid waste and fire truck turning plan. I partly brought it up because it is one of the cleaner ones just to show where things are located, but also because I wanted to point out that it was taken into account sort of getting in and out of the trash or service area here by pulling straight up the drive, or snaking up the drive. The drive is not actually straight intentionally to help, again, prevent that sight line coming in. But you could come straight in, load, and then back up with minimal time spent needing to turn, and then go around the parking lot and pull out. But I guess I should clear that one. There you go. The other stuff I wanted to point out on this, in addition to where the service area is in blue, there's a substantial Duke Energy transmission easement on the west side of the property that borders the Alta Town Center apartments. And I'm going to go into that in some more detail in a second. But it's highlighted here in red just to show you sort of the length it runs and where it runs, because that creates an issue with putting anything in that Duke Energy easement. And then, again, pointing out the tree conservation areas here. And then, I guess, final thing to just note on this slide is that all of the sidewalks, dark gray on this slide, on this plan, around the building itself are internal, not external, which is where the service area is located. So again, as far as pedestrian safety comes, if you were to walk out of the building, walk around, and exit the property towards Town Center Drive down the sidewalk, you would do so, in a way that is away from where the service area is located. This is a snipping from Duke Energy's use guidelines for encroachments on transmission easements, and just highlighted in, well, it appears red on my screen, though up on there it looks a little more yellow, noting that they do not permit permanent or temporary structures, and specifically dumpsters are called out within their transmission easements. That's pretty common, but noting it here. And so in addition to this general guideline, we've had some conversations with Duke Energy, in particular Mr. Soltz, who I'll call up in a second, on this issue, but also on another issue related to plantings in the parking areas. We had to get, actually, I guess I'll go back 2 slides quickly, 3 slides. So you can see on this side here, we had to have some conversations with Duke about what plantings could go there in order to not have to apply for an additional design alternate application. Go back to this slide. And we were able to satisfactorily resolve sort of the issues with that. Brian, if you come on up, I'll let you summarize, and I know Mr. Chair may want to swear you in first before we do that.
Yeah, go ahead and just say your name and your relation to the case and your address, and then I'll swear you in.
Brian Soltz, Sombatech engineer, land surveyor, planning services for the project, office 8312 Creedmoor Road, Raleigh 27613, formerly commercial site design. That's kind of the names are still on the border there. We were acquired by Sombatech, being the new branding as of this year, but the plans weren't quite updated with the right logos yet.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, proceed.
And Brian, yeah, if you would just summarize your conversations with Duke Energy with respect to, in particular, the transmission easement and placement of the service area.
As Will stated, we did receive this information here directly from Duke, but as part of our project, we do have some work being performed under the transmission easement, and as part of regular engineering studies, we contacted them to present our plans, grading, landscaping, parking lots, drainage, utilities, to them for advance review, and they have accepted our proposed encroachments, being of landscaping at this time, but very limited, of course. If you ever want to talk to them about it, you can. They're very limited. Of course, dumpsters are absolutely not allowed, and that's mostly due to the lifting activity that occurs when you service a dumpster, because of the clearance guidances that they have from their transmission line. So that's what was explained to me about the dumpster. So.
And Brian, well, I've got you one more question just related to easements. Commissioners, there's also a sewer easement that runs along the side of the property where the transmission easement also runs. Brian, could you just speak to that briefly and
Can you go back to that slide?
Yeah, certainly.
Do you know how to navigate this?
This might be, is that maybe the easiest one?
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right.
Okay, so the sewer is down in the creek on the east side of the property. When the apartment building's constructed to our west, on the other side of the transmission easement, that property, they extended a sewer line. The city of Raleigh's sewer line comes through. If I touch, it works. Comes basically up. I may not have hit that right because that got our tree conservation area, but it's above the hatched area is the city sewer easement, and then our tree conservation area is a hatched area, but it sort of goes through the site as well. So obviously, the city of Raleigh also doesn't allow dumpsters in their sanitary sewer easements, obviously. So another encumbersome of where to place the dumpster on the property. And yeah, any more questions for me, Will?
That's it for now. I'll be back up here in a second. Thank you. All right. So these are actually some photos I took when I went out to post the property right before the holidays with my kids. We were running around the woods. That was a lot of fun. And so I included these photos to illustrate. These were originally included to illustrate one on the photo on the left there. That is standing on Town Center Drive, looking north toward down the transmission easement, and then to the left in that photo are the completed or the sort of most east side of the Alta Town Center apartments. And so you can see there, I believe they're 5 stories. They're 5 or 6 stories apartments. So they've got some good height to them. And so, the top floors of those apartments would overlook the side of the completed hotel property and the parking area that's being proposed there now. If a service area were located on that part of the property, it would be very visible from those apartments for a variety of reasons. One, because even if you could get it outside of the transmission easement, you really couldn't landscape much around it because of the limitations with landscaping from Duke Energy behind it. And so you can see, just looking down, the transmission easement in the photo on the left, and then the photo on the right is actually taken from the corner of that last apartment building at the Alta Town Center, looking directly towards the property across the transmission easement. You can see there is nothing more than a weed really in that transmission area, and while we have permission to do some minor plantings, you're not going to get much there. So both sort of illustrate that not an ideal location for the adjacent property, even if you were to put it there, which is where it would go as a rear yard for the site. And I'll just, while we're on these, while I was at the property on the 20th, I ran into the property manager for the property and had a nice conversation with them and left them a card and, let them know if there were any questions, they were welcome to ask us, and haven't gotten any feedback from them, but they were appreciative of the conversation. So here's the portion of the presentation in which I say I very much heard the chairman last month when he said include some views from the roadways and exterior portions of the property. So I took a series of Google images and I've included them here. I'm going to bring Brian back up to talk a little bit about these locations and sort of the views you get from the different roadways on these particular points. Brian, if you'll come on back up, that'd be great.
And as you show the view, I can explain the topography between the view and where the proposed dumpster enclosure facility will be. So this is the intersection view. From Town Center is on the left, and then Triangle Town Center heading towards 540 is on the right. This brown area is a slope easement. So what you have is, topography-wise, you have the ramps of 540, and you have Triangle Town Center Boulevard that runs at a very low elevation. Okay, so we're talking 32, I believe, is an elevation towards 540. But specifically here at this corner, that elevation where the photo was taken is 244. Okay, our proposed dumpster is 244. But guess what you have in between us and 244 on our site? You have a hill in front of you that peaks at 255. Okay, so that natural berm there of that land that was slope graded for these roads to be built through here exceeds the height of our trash enclosure. So you will not see the trash enclosure from this intersection. Even if the city of Raleigh were to fully clear the greenway and the 2 new riparian buffers that cross between us, behind that berm. And then on top of that, we have a berm elevation that he showed earlier of our stormwater pond that's 240. City of Raleigh rules and regulations require the screening of all BMP facilities from roadways again. So we have evergreen shrubs planted all around the top of berm of our stormwater pond for screening of that facility. So again, you're looking at a berm elevation of 240. Again, our dumpster is way back from there. And then let's be reminded of the distance. The plans are easy to see that seems like everything's close together. Those are 40 scale drawings. The distance from this point to the dumpster corral is 583 feet. Okay. For reference, city blocks are 400 feet. So you would have to look across and even further, 100 feet further than the square across the street to see where this dumpster would be. So that'd be some pretty good vision. So next slide.
Next slide. All right.
This is one even more crazy. So this is the intersection of the off-ramp and 540, correct?
Yeah, the Triangle Town Boulevard and 540 off-ramp.
Yeah, so we're looking straight up. That's Triangle Town Boulevard to our left up the photo, and then up the right is the do not enter signs onto 540 off-ramp. So the off-ramp elevations are way lower. So we're talking 230, 231, 232 around this area. And again, behind these trees, which is all NCDOT controlled access right-of-way, I'd like to point out, one, we're in an area where pedestrians are prohibited. The city of Raleigh cannot construct sidewalks in this area. This is a prohibited controlled access zone. NCDOT, you'll notice on our plan, made a comment that we had to stop our sidewalks at the controlled access fence that wraps around I-540 and some of its exit ramps. So no pedestrian access all over here. So you would have to be in a vehicle over here and looking towards our site. From this intersection, we're talking, this is Triangle Town and 540. So that's 389 feet, a little bit less than the park across the street. Again, you got the slope berm leading into the site. Then you would have to cross over the creek, which drops down to 225. And then again, you would have to cross our stormwater pond berm with evergreen vegetation on top of it at 240. And then the trash corral would be right after that. But again, that's 389 feet away.
All right, and this is from the off-ramp on I-40 heading back down towards Triangle Town Boulevard.
Again, an area where pedestrians are prohibited and expressly restricted. They cannot be along this area at all. This is the off-ramp, so you'd be, again, in your vehicle. Again, it's a similar characteristic as the other side of the property with a bermed up area. That's slope easement for NCDOT. So the top of the berm elevation at this point on the off-ramp is 250 again. So you hit the top of the berm, and then you come back down off of it. You hit the City of Raleigh sewer easement, and then you hit our swap of shod, tree conservation, protective yard, undisturbed plantings with a basal area calculation averaging 4.08, which is dense, and that buffer contains loblolly pines and numerous hardwoods, according to our tree conservation study. And that's all, of course, undisturbed. And this is actually the closest the trash facility is to a public right-of-way. It's 141 feet from this point to the...
And last, the view from 540 itself, looking towards the property.
Yeah. So 540 is at a little bit higher elevation, but you are going 70 miles per hour along there in your car. No pedestrians are allowed. The pines that you see, the stand-up pines, will remain. That's part of, those have been identified in the tree conservation area because the berm, that's sort of the top of the berm. Those pines are on top of that 250 berm that's along the top of our site. So you'll always have that stand of loblolly pines in that area remaining.
Thank you, Brian.
That's it.
And just, you can see in this, to orient, on the far right side of this Google image is the very top of the transmission line there. So it gives you kind of an idea of where you are. All right, just to summarize and close out, quickly go through the 4 required findings and give some summary of what we've gone through. So the first is the approved alternate is consistent with the intent of the landscaping and screening regulations. I think the first point is that aside from location, the service area meets and complies with the UDO landscaping and screening requirements. As you just heard, the proposed alternate is not really visible from I-540. It has both the berm, but then it's got the trees, the pine trees on top of the berm that limit that view. The tree conservation areas and additional proposed plantings and distance from the road limit the views from Town Center Drive and Triangle Town Boulevard. And then the proposed alternative limits the views from the adjacent apartment complex the best it can be done, particularly in light of the landscaping limitations with the Duke Energy transmission line. It gets it almost as far away as you could possibly get it from that property. Finding 2, the approved alternate does not substantially negatively impact the comfort and safety of pedestrians. You heard the distances that the actual service area would be located from any of the right-of-ways, and in particular, you heard with respect to 540 that there are no pedestrian access along that side and even further down Triangle Town Boulevard. As we summarized earlier, the alternate is set away from the internal sidewalks on the property, and it allows an efficient and direct route for the trash and recycling trucks to pull in, load, and leave the property, and that was taken into account in the design. Finding number 3, the approved alternative utilizes other architectural or landscaping treatments to create visual interest. Again, aside from location, there are no requests for any alternates with respect to landscaping and screening. We showed the landscaping plan, and it's well thought out. Enclosed on, as far as screening goes, the service area is enclosed on 3 sides by the 8-foot wall, on the front by the 7-foot 6-inch painted steel gate, and then landscape with wax myrtles and willow oaks around the outside. And then finally, the approved alternate is considered equal or better than the standard. It's not like a broken record here, but aside from location, the design alternate complies with UDO requirements. It provides comparable screening and landscaping to block views from the roadways on 540, Triangle Town Boulevard, and Town Center Drive. And then it also allows for significant distance and screening, and the screening is there, and landscaping is there with respect to the apartment complex on the west of the site. So that's all we've got. Any questions? Happy to answer them, or have any of our crew here answer them as well.
Okay, thank you, Will. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Great. Thank you, Will. I don't think I see anyone from the public, but if anyone's from the public, can you make yourself known? Hearing no additional questions or presentation of relevant facts, the commission will now close the hearing and bring the matter to the table. As a reminder, the commission is tasked with deciding if, based on the evidence presented, this proposal meets the applicable standards. This decision cannot be based on the personal preference of the commission members. Rather, it is based on standards and evidence. If based on its deliberations, the commission requires additional evidence, we will reopen the hearing. All right, anyone want to start us off?
I mean, I think the addition of the photos helps really make clear that between the berms and the trees and the easements and the conservation areas, this is the only place it can sensibly go.
Yeah, I totally agree. I really appreciate the thoroughness of the presentation. I feel like it's abundantly clear that this is the appropriate location for this, and yeah. Anyone have any other thoughts? Want to make a motion?
Before we vote, I think we need to designate voting members.
Yeah, let's see.
Everybody but one alternate.
Okay.
So we need to designate, there's 2 regular members missing.
Right.
So we need to
So
designate 2 alternates.
I think everyone can vote except for Shravya, right? And that would cover it.
Yep.
Okay, is that good? Shravya, you can just hang out.
For context, we typically do the longest tenured folks, but
Yeah, oh, that's why. Yeah.
I know that.
Thanks, Will. So if someone has a motion, I mean, I'm happy to make a motion to approve as presented. If anyone wants to second that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. The commission's written decision will be adopted when the minutes of this meeting are adopted, and the written decision will be provided to the applicant and other parties with a right to such notice following the adoption of the decision. Thank you all, and I really appreciate the thorough presentation and the fact that you responded to what we said last meeting. So. All right, that wraps up our quasi-judicial portion of our meeting. So we've got some minutes here to approve. I'm going to open them up now. Is anybody taking a look at them?
I have. I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. So fast. That's amazing. Thank you all for being here tonight. Great level of attendance. And since I think we should probably take a minute to talk about attendance, since we have a couple open seats and the council has expressed their concern with some of our attendance statistics when they were going to look at our history. The clerk's office provided them. Casey, could you come up and show that? Were you able to find that? Okay. Casey, this is from the clerk's office?
No, this is, this is calculations that I put together based on the attendance that I provided to the clerk's
okay.
office at
Cool.
their request.
Awesome.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, so this is helpful. The colors, you had them color coded, right?
Yeah, the colors don't really translate to
Oh,
your
bummer.
screen, unfortunately.
Can you sort them? Or that's fine. That's fine. Basically, I think I'm going to summarize the concerns from the council. Is basically
Oops, sorry about that.
if we look at the percentages of attendance, I think an ideal place to be is probably in the like 60 to 70%. And they were concerned with some of the attendance percentages and kind of wondering just like what's going on. And I think a big part of these statistics has to do with the fact that we have QJ meetings and non-QJ meetings, and our non-QJ meetings are often not like very substantial. And so our strategy lately has been to just cancel them when they're not really, there's not much going on. So people don't feel like they're coming to the meetings, having to come all the way in for not much. But mostly I just wanted to bring this to the attention of all the commissioners and kind of request that we do as our best job to have regular attendance and participation, especially in the QJs. And I actually think we're already doing that, so good for you all. And then kind of open it up, since this is like the time when most everyone's here, to hear from you all if there's anything we can do from your perspective to increase attendance and participation.
Did you guys get the results of the survey that you sent out about how, like, if we would prefer to have
Yeah.
one longer meeting per month or two, one a QJ, one not a QJ?
Yeah, we looked at them, and I think the main message was it wasn't really about like a certain day or time. Like our day and time seemed to be just as good as any other day and time for most people. Yeah, what else came out of that?
Yeah, that was really the takeaway for me, was that, I polled kind of to see if there was a different day or time that would work better for more of the commissioners, and really the Thursday afternoon, evening was the time that had the best response. So there was no clear, like, something else should be better than what we're doing now, as far as meeting days and times.
I'll just voice my own opinion. I mean, if we've particularly got a short meeting where we've got one or two cases on the agenda, if there's something else that can be brought non-QJ to these meetings, it would be nice to just knock it out as part of one meeting
Yeah.
a month and then cancel the second one. I understand that we are going to have the next one 2 weeks from now. And here from the legacy project candidate, I don't know what else is on that agenda, but it seems like
Probably not much.
if that's it, we definitely could have combined those two. I mean, my attendance hasn't been great.
Yeah, this is not meant to like call anybody out. It's,
but
it's mostly
I-
because the council is responding to it.
And I do, I'd say make more of a point to make it to the QJ meetings.
Yeah,
than-
which is important.
Than the others, like if there's something important in my life going on, I usually try and skip it to get here for the QJ meetings.
Nice.
Adam, I don't know if it'd be helpful to give some context too. When this board first started hearing QJ, you were still hearing some requests were admin alternates, which were non-QJ, and some were QJ. And since QJ was a whole new thing for everybody, we recommended keeping those separate at the time because you still were hearing some of those admin alternates with a different hat. You don't have that issue anymore.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to add some of the non-QJ stuff now to your QJ, I don't have any concerns with you
Yeah.
tacking them on. Just
I think that's a really good strategy I mean, I don't know what you all think, but I think having one meeting a month that we know like is important to be at, and then if we have to have another meeting for, like right before Sir Walter or, whatever, if we're trying to, finalize our report, our annual report or something like that, I think sometimes it's important to be able to have that extra slot. But I think most likely if we really wanted to, we could just have one meeting a month and know that maybe some of those would be longer. I mean, they really haven't been for 6 months or so, but in the past year, we've seen some pretty long QJ meetings. So I don't know if you all are if there's a preference at the table for, stomaching a longer meeting every once in a while to be able to just have one meeting a month generally, and then have an option, like you said, to have that second meeting if needed for a special case.
Yeah, the responses to the questions along those lines in the survey were really like mixed, like
Yeah.
50-50. It wasn't like everybody would prefer 2 meetings or everybody would prefer 1. It was really
Yeah.
kind of close to half and half.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in my response to the survey, I don't think there was anything that needed to be changed with the number or the type of meetings. Personally, I can attend if I'm traveling, and I travel a lot.
Yeah.
And I think my ask would be if we have 2 meetings and one of them is non-QJ, could it be virtual? And then I can be present.
No, that's right. I know where we're going with this one.
as of right now, that's not an option. You definitely can never do QJ virtual, and there's no option right now for a virtual. No boards are doing it.
That was like something that was debated with council, right? And they basically said, we're not doing any virtual anymore.
Yeah, virtual is something that was actually created by state law during COVID, a special law that allowed us to do virtual meetings.
Could they be virtual if they were like a committee, like if Sir Walter committee? Okay.
And everybody's asked about it, and that's the answer across the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was like a huge cost to do virtually recorded meetings for everyone or something.
Well, there's actually, virtual didn't exist until COVID. There was a phone, a call-in in the statute. So the statutes don't even get to the virtual part unless you have that the special legislation that was in effect during COVID as part of the state of emergency.
Well, we hear you, Patrice. Sorry. Any other thoughts from anyone?
I was just curious about the vacancies, how many we have, and I'm going to be done
Yeah.
this spring, and if we have more.
I think we have 2, but I think one just got filled on Tuesday.
We have 2 alternates open.
Right, yep.
Oh, 2 got filled, both.
That
got-
includes the movement that happened on Tuesday.
Yeah, so Matthew Griffith was appointed to a regular member position to fill Corey Bates's position since his term had expired. And so now we have 2 vacant positions.
Oh, I thought someone was nominated on Tuesday.
Somebody was nominated
Yeah,
on Tuesday,
okay.
but that would be for the ballot for the next meeting.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think next meeting, well, at least one will be filled, and then we'll end up with one. And then you're going to roll off soon?
In May, I mean, it's a while, but.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else rolling off? I think it's me next after you.
I think
Yeah.
it's you.
And then, oh, do you have it?
You're our ETJ
I think
member, aren't you?
Will,
That might have, that hasn't, you can check with the clerk's office, but I think that might have restarted your
You're only
time
in
when
your
you were
second
appointed
term.
to the
You're only in your
ETJ.
second term.
spot.
You've got another term.
I've always been.
You got like a COVID gift or something. I got extra too.
You got extra
Yeah.
too? Okay. I feel like I've been on this forever.
I think we all got
I
extra.
think you're in your third
We all
term
got
now.
extra when I went QJ, I think.
I think that was the
Yeah, okay.
switch over.
I think, Will, I think you're being reappointed soon, I believe.
Yep.
And then Martha, you're coming up later this year, and then also I think Kyle is later this year for, potentially for reappointment. There's a few, there's a few that have terms ending, but I think only Martha is the one that's ending her third term and can't be reappointed.
Thank you for that, Casey. Anything else? I don't know that we need to make a decision, but it seems like there's some interest in minimizing 2 meetings a month when possible, which makes sense to me. I mean, efficiency-wise.
Yeah.
Even like tonight, it feels like a lot to ask all of you all to come here just for this case about a dumpster, but hopefully that will change in the future. What's our forecast look like for cases?
Let me look. We may have one case for the February 1st meeting. That's still to be determined. And as of right now, we don't have anything for the March QJ meeting. But again, the case that's sort of not quite ready to be heard yet is hanging out there and will be coming up soon. We do have, sorry, I'm trying not to sniffle into the microphone. There is a text change that is coming in the pipeline that Keegan McDonald will be coming at one of the meetings in February. Sort of, we're tentatively planning to come and present that to y'all to get your feedback on it. And then obviously we're in the new year, so we have things like starting to figure out the work plan for the Sir Walter Raleigh Awards, because that takes a long time to plan. And then obviously the work plan and the annual retreat and things are coming up in the next few months as well. So I think we'll even though we might not have much QJ items in the next few months, we have some, decision-making needs about, annual report,
Yeah.
annual retreat, Sir Walter Raleigh, things like that coming
Yeah.
up, which we can certainly do at the first meeting of the month if that is everybody's preference.
Seems like a good idea. Yeah.
And if we only have like maybe one or two design alternate cases, we can probably include some of that.
Do you guys have any idea why we are getting so few design alternate cases?
I
That's not
well, we
true.
have had a lot of text changes over the past few years, and I think folks are becoming accustomed to all the changes that have been in place now. So that may have been part of it, right? That it was just so different and new that people were trying to adjust to it. I think y'all also provide really thoughtful questions and feedback to applicants that do come before the commission. So this is purely speculation. I haven't heard this from people, but it seems like y'all put a critical eye to the requests and make sure that they really meet the findings. So I sort of have a suspicion that maybe folks are seeing that, and it's not just going to be like a slam dunk easy yes. And so maybe they're taking that into their calculus of their projects.
Okay.
We haven't seen a new downtown site plan in a while.
Yeah, we really
Those
haven't.
typically trigger multiple things, so.
That's probably just development.
Just slow economy.
Yeah. What's the text change presentation going to be about?
It's it's TC 623. I believe it might be on the text change page on the website, or if not, soonish. And it's about streetscape plans and signage plans.
Oh, this is the one that came up at
Yes.
the council.
Yep. that I believe they authorized a few months ago.
Yeah.
So the staff's been working on drafting that, and I think it's just about ready to be put out to the public for feedback and all of that.
This would increase some of the cases that we saw, basically. We would start to see these streetscape signage cases.
Yep, that's the current proposal right now, that the Appearance Commission would be the legislative body that would make recommendations to City Council.
And
But
then
again, that's the current draft.
the text change to change the Appearance Commission name is also advancing.
Yes, yes, it is. I believe it's scheduled for Planning Commission consideration this month.
Yeah, Keegan just messaged, I asked Keegan McDonald, who, it's in the portal now, according to the portal, it'll be up through through January 18 in the portal. They're shooting for either the second meeting in January for Planning Commission, which would be on the 23rd, or the first meeting in February, which would be the 13th.
This is the name change? Yeah.
And that would likely not go to text change committee. Could go, but then could be approved and then sent to council for their next meeting.
Yeah, it's up to the Planning Commission if they send it there or not.
Yeah. That sounds good. That's a good update. Do you want to talk about the general timing of elections and our retreat? I know those are both coming up, right? I think they're both coming up.
Yes. So the couple years that I've been with the commission, the elections have happened around this time, January, February. So those would be coming up quite soon. Again, unless the commission wants to pick a different time to do them. I don't believe there's anything in the UDO that says you have to do it during a certain month or anything like that. And then the annual retreat, again, in my experience, has traditionally been in March. So unless y'all wanted to do something differently, that's kind of where I had penciled it in. I believe typically it's like mid-March, but we could talk at the next meeting if y'all have a preference for a day and location for where you'd like to hold the retreat.
How long have you been chair for? Less than a year.
Yeah, I think less than a year. I think I came in the spring. Is that right?
Yeah, I want to say it was like February.
February.
So your rules say that the term of office for chair is 1 year or until a successor is elected,
Yeah.
and the chair is eligible for reelection, same, and then vice chair is the same.
Yeah.
The rules I think they used to have a date, and we took it out
They
for
did,
this
yes.
reason.
Yeah, that was while I was here. Because I remember with Carter, he was always kind of adamant, like, there's this date we have to do this by. And then I guess it got taken out or something. Whatever, it stopped being a thing.
Well,
at
yeah,
some
well, it was
point.
like, oh, if we didn't do it yet, then are we in trouble? And you're not. So we want to make sure that's clear. So it would be 1 year from, if we could figure out when you were.
Yeah, when I started.
I want to say you were at the election, we had it in February, if my memory serves.
Sounds about right to
Oh,
me.
I can double check.
Yeah, why don't we set an election for our February QJ meeting, at the end of our February QJ meeting? The way we used to do, when I came on, the way we did elections is paper slips in a hat.
Secret ballot.
Secret
Yeah.
ballot, yes. Thank you. I appreciate the technical term.
Very sophisticated.
So we could do that again.
Although I think last time there was only two names on the ballot.
Yes,
There was
exactly.
one person for chair and one person for co-chair.
And Corey got some extra time to talk you into it.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
this is when, when you guys became it.
Yeah, anyway.
And I think we had just sent notes out to the entire commission ahead of time to see who's interested and who might want to put their name on the ballot.
Yeah. Yep. So we can do that same thing. And I think we just start right now. If anyone is interested in nominating someone or themselves for either vice chair or chair, you can just send an email to myself and Will and CC Casey, and we'll basically create a log of those nominations. And then in the February meeting, QJ meeting, we can start with those. And then if anybody has any other discussion about it or new nominations or removing themselves, we can have that discussion then. And if it makes sense to have a secret ballot, is that what you call it? I really don't think we
Fashion way where there's nominations
Yeah.
from the floor
Yeah.
beforehand, you just vote.
Yeah, Yeah, that sounds good. We'll do it like that in February. Is everybody good with that?
Yeah, I would also send an email to, just to get everybody that wasn't here tonight.
Yeah, that sounds good. I can do that. Casey, were you able to dial in our remaining budget after Sir Walter Raleigh Awards so that we can get an idea of how much we have left for our legacy project this year?
I have not pulled that up yet. Let me take a quick look. I need to verify some of the numbers from Sir Walter. I keep track of them, but I don't do the actual financial part. So I might have missed some things.
Yeah.
But my estimate is that you'll have about 5,000 remaining to be able to put towards a legacy project for
different
the rest
legacy
of this
project.
fiscal year,
Okay.
ending at the end of June. So I can certainly get with our finance team and make sure my numbers are
Okay, well, we
Right, with
can.
what they have
that
to make
sounds
sure
good. Would
we're
you
in the
do
right
that?
ballpark. Yep.
If you do that, then I think for the commissioners here, if you have ideas, we have money for another legacy project. So that we can do
Yeah, just-
before the spring.
I would just remind that the funds have to be dispersed before the end of this fiscal year.
Yeah.
Which is the end of June. So just keep that in mind for, if a legacy project maybe isn't ripe enough to make that happen, it may be something that would have to be considered for the next fiscal year.
Yeah, and again, if you've got ideas, feel free to, I think probably a good first step is shoot Will and I an email, and then we can bring it up, get some details about it and bring it up to the commission at a meeting.
And the 5,000 is just what's left over from the Sir Walter pot, not anything out of the operating fund?
Oh, so there's maybe more.
Well, you already funded $5,000 towards the Commerce
From the
Place.
other-
out of-
from the other. Yeah, so we can, let's just assume that there's 5,000. That's good. Okay. Anybody else have anything? Yes. Yeah, sure. So, gosh, they've changed quite a bit over the years. I would say my early memory of the legacy projects were that they were often kind of physical interventions, like a bench or some kind of beautification. And then I think more recently, coming out of COVID, we were able to support like bigger efforts like this study that came out of NC State that studied the Midtown Waterfront Park concept. And now this year we are supporting the Commerce Place streetscape renovation into a VUNERF. So, generally, I think every year, generally, we have $10,000, but we often split that in two $5,000 projects to support things that are relevant to the appearance of the city of Raleigh and the kind of work that we do on the commission. So, does that help? Okay, cool. Yeah. So, yeah, if you have any ideas, don't be shy. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, guys.